If you invented a car that ran on stupidity, where would you go to refuel? I think the list of places you couldn't refuel is much shorter. /r/AskReddit. I wouldn't even have to go anywhere to refuel. I'm the one I need. As long as there are people around, you'll have a full tank. Gestures broadly at everywhere. I'd ask the kid who I used to tutor. The kid asked me questions like who invented the moon. The kid was in 8th grade. I'd have my sister sit in the passenger seat and tell me where Europe is. Infinite fuel glitch. For context, she once said Europe is in England, right? We live in damn England and she's in her mid-teens. I'd just open the Facebook comments section and read to my car while I'm driving. Unlimited fuel. Physical location? Walmart. I work retail. I would never run out. Edit, thank you for the awards, kind strangers. Also, I'm a doctor of pharmacy. I still get treated the same as when I was a cashier or waitress. And all my retail friends need to watch the brilliant show Superstore on Hulu. It's nice to know misery has company. I'd plug it into my golden retriever, when he was still alive. Holy shit, that dog was a big fluffy lovable idiot. Who is the GOAT stand-up comedian? When I was a kid my parents moved a lot, but I always found them. Rodney Dangerfield. Came to say Carlin as he was brilliant at his craft, and Pryor was his equal from another mother, but of all the names I saw mentioned, no one mentioned Red Fox. Most of you all only know/knew him from Sanford and Son, but that was at the end of his life. He came up in the clubs pre and post the civil rights movement. He was also known as the king of the party records. You couldn't buy one of his records without it being in a plain brown paper bag. Blue before blue became blue. And there was also Uncle Milty, Milton Berle. Known not only for his raunchy comedy, but for also being well endowed. I'd also care to mention Martin Short for his ability to not work blue and still get the laughs. All the other names mentioned have their place, depending on your preference, but sometimes it's the OGs that deserve the title for what they had to go through to get to where they did. George Carlin, but honorable mention to Richard Pryor. For me it's Richard Pryor. The late Sean Locke. Billy Connolly. George Carlin. Carlin would be hard to top. The fact that Carlin is both the number 1 and number 2 comment at the time I'm writing this should show something. Carlin and Pryor. I go back and forth. I'm surprised Bob Newhart gets no love. Go back and listen to his old comedy albums from the 60s. The man was genius. His 1960 album won 2 Grammys for Album of the Year and Best New Artist. Was he a push the edge of the envelope kind of comedian in the vein of Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor, or George Carlin? Probably not. He just made people laugh. Mitch Hedberg used to be the GOAT. He still is, but he used to be too. Norm. Bill Hicks or George Carlin? Bill Hicks is my personal favorite. I suspect Carlin's more political stuff from the late 80s and early 90s was a result of him seeing Hicks. Bill Burr. What's the most disgusting thing you've seen someone do with no shame? Working customer service at Walmart, I once had a customer take off her very worn, very smelly shoes and put them on the counter looking for a refund because the insole in one of them was coming apart. It was a brand we hadn't even carried in 4 or 5 years. It was my uncle's wedding day and his wife was just getting ready to walk down the aisle. One of the guests in the wife's family decided to stand up and show off his Johnson. There were kids there and he got kicked out trying to play it off as a joke. First that comes to mind, working at a casino, there was this one lady who smoked so much, she complained the servers weren't bringing her new ashtrays often enough, started ashing on her tongue. One time I watched her put out a cigarette butt on the machine, then fucking eat it. I saw this guy get up in the middle of a bus ride multiple times and switched seats. I noticed he smelled urine, and when he got off I noticed all the seats he sat on were moist/wet. He also took out a big tub of Vaseline during the ride and slathered his entire face and neck with it. Saw a guy jacking off on a city bus right near 3 kids. The dad of the kids went over and literally dragged the guy to the door and threw him out the exit while the bus was moving. He totally deserved it though. Removed. A guy walked into the restaurant I was working in, tried to open the door going to the storeroom and realized it wasn't a bathroom. He then proceeded to pee on the door right in front of people eating at the table near it, then walked out. At my old job we used to have units, and a bathroom in the office on the units, generally used by everyone, except one guy, for just number 1. We would cover if someone had to go off unit for number 2. No problem. This was a unwritten rule. But there was this one evening shifter who would basically say FK all of us. He was probably 5'9" pushing 400 pounds. I think he would purposely go in and blow it up and every time would come out, leaving feces on the toilet seat. Every single time we had to go and tell him to go and clean the bathroom because he left it dirty. He would shrug it off until the manager of the unit went in and saw it and had to tell him. Never seen a healthcare worker so disgusting. Saw a customer at work sneeze into his hand full of change and give it to my coworker. I didn't have time to warn her though. Smoke electrical tape, the black plastic stuff. Rolled a small cigarette-sized tube and 2 guys smoked it, lit it, blew out the flame, and inhaled over and over. They rolled a giant cone right after. Me and another buddy told them that we couldn't believe they were smoking tape. They laughed and said they couldn't believe we weren't. Quite disgusting. I work with this guy who has a skin condition, not sure what it is. I don't think even he knows TBH because he's the type of person who will not go to the doctors. Anyway, fair enough, he's got a skin condition where it's flaky. But he scratches and he scratches and he scratches and his skin goes everywhere and he does not care. He's a delivery driver for the store I work at and the other drivers will come in furious because the dashboard, the seats, the floor, everything is snowed in with flakes of skin. It's got to the point my manager has had to take him aside and say you need to clean up after yourself. And has given him a handheld vacuum which he still does not use. I'd interviewed a guy and decided to hire him, but first, wanted to see how he drove, so I suggested lunch, I'd buy. Off we went, took his truck. Kept it reasonably clean, drove proficiently, decent table manners. Good representative for the company if it ever came to it. So I paid and we piled back into his truck, me, foreman, another guy, and as we're getting back, 2-lane road country-ish, he swerved expressly to hit an armadillo and laughed like a hyena. We got back, my foreman glanced my way, and I shook my head imperceptibly. He nodded in agreement. So we told the guy we had a couple more people to interview, we didn't, and that was that. Occasionally still think back and wonder, why on earth? An inoffensive critter and he went out of his way to kill it. Not our kind of people. Kid in middle school ran and dove into super long trough urinal, slid down it baseball style the whole length. A drinking partner I once knew was very much a shock and awe kind of fella. He would come out with the most insane stuff but was incredibly funny and intelligent. My opinion changed on the last adjective when he went to the men's room and came out with one of the yellow urinal cakes that help keep the piss stench down. He put it in his mouth and ate it. To this day I don't know how he did it, but it was just really weird and disgusting. I watched a middle-aged man take his shoes off and clip his toenails onto the floor in a waiting area at Logan Airport. From the phone conversation he was having at the same time, it appeared that he was a mental health professional.